Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee, I got my vape. Let's talk a little. Today, I'd like to talk about my experience with sales. It started off bad, but throughout my life, I finally figured out that my image of sales was all wrong. Before we get started with that, let's take a big old sip. I'm sure a lot of you are like me. When we think about salesmen, a lot of the times we think about the pushy, self-centered Hollywood depiction of a quote-unquote used car salesman. This guy's got a cheap suit on, he's got a 5 o'clock shadow and a half-smoked cigar butt in his mouth, and he's not gonna stop until you get sold that hunk of junk. So why would we ever wanna get into sales if that's what we pictured? I've had lots of opportunities to go into sales, but my biggest fear was that people would see me as that person and they wouldn't wanna buy anything from me. When I was around 18 or 19 years old, one of my first jobs was with a telemarketer, and yes, I was selling vinyl siding. That just reinforced my fears because we had to read from a script. We had some guy standing over us. We had a quota. We were guilted if we didn't meet that quota. And actually, we didn't get to keep our job if we didn't. And I was calling people during dinner time. People were cussing me out. I was selling vinyl siding to people with brick houses. I lasted about 2 weeks in that job and I did not make one sale. Soon I learned that I was okay if I worked retail. If I worked retail, I was working for a store where people would come to and buy the things that they wanted to buy. I didn't have to really talk them into anything. All I had to do was answer their questions if they had them. But a lot of people were still pretty wary of me if I just approached them at all. Because of that image of that used car salesman, everybody has it. So what I had to do was I had to figure out how to not pressure them. When I was in my mid to late 20s, I found myself up in St. Louis. I was playing with Ike Turner Jr., and we weren't working a lot, but we had to rehearse 90 hours a week. I didn't have transportation for a lot of that time, so I had to get whatever I could get. And I found myself in this really cool store that was in malls, and what they sold was this really rough furniture that had a lifetime warranty, that had nails in it, you could see them. We would sell some oils that you could put on it and make it any kind of stain that you wanted. We had all kinds of different color cushions. It was really a good product for what it was. It wasn't something that you were gonna put in a fancy home, but in a rustic cabin or something like that, it was very affordable. I still got an hourly wage. I didn't really get any kind of commission, so it didn't matter if I sold or not, I still was gonna make my money. The funny thing was, being in a mall, if people saw me, they wouldn't come in. I would see the lights going off in people's eyes and then they would land on me and they would just duck their heads and they'll keep going. If people actually wandered into the store and they started looking around and stuff like that, then if they saw me, they would actually run to get out of that store. So what we had to do is we had a desk set up where I could sit and kind of hide where people couldn't see me. And then if people saw me, they still got a shocked look on their face. But since I was sitting down, it didn't bother them. I could say, hey, just look around, and if you have any questions, let me know. I actually enjoyed this job. I was learning how to sell, but I believed in the product. And I really enjoyed seeing the people excited about it. I enjoyed teaching them about it. I enjoyed giving them information, and I got really good at letting them off the hook. I actually became the top salesperson in that area, and that was pretty huge because I had long hair down to my butt. I did not fit in with the image of their ideal employee. As a matter of fact, they offered me a management role, but they said I would have to cut my hair. Luckily, I wasn't there for a career. My next sales job was actually in a music store. And man, I had so much fun in there. I enjoyed showing off the newest, greatest thing. I even invited my friends to come in there. I would let them play with the stuff. I had tons of information. I was passionate about it. And I actually really got good at actually selling. For me, in this environment, selling was a breeze. I would have parents coming in that wanted to buy guitars for their kids, but they were afraid of investing a whole lot of money in it in case the kids dropped it, but they also wanted something that the kids were going to be able to actually play. And I was able to work with those people and actually fill their needs. I started actually understanding a little bit of what sales was. And then later in life, I actually found myself in a situation where I got sales training and my whole image of sales completely changed. From the littlest baby all the way up to death, we are selling people. We are figuring out how to get what we want from other people, how to persuade people to do what we want to do. Oh, come on, Dad, I want to go to the movies. You know, it's all sales. Here's the biggest myth that keeps people from wanting to get into sales. And that is, I'm not going to tell you. You know why? Because I'm going to take a sip real quick. Okay, I'll tell you. The biggest myth in sales is people hate to be sold to. Well, that's not exactly true because everybody loves to buy things. They love to be looking for something, to find something that is really, really cool, and for somebody to have it there for them so they can buy it. And they're willing to pay money for it. A lot of times they're willing to go into debt for it. So it's not that people don't like to be sold to. They don't like to be manipulated. They don't like to be pressured and taken advantage of. In 2018, consumers spent $517 billion online in the United States only, and that's just online. So I finally got to a point where I had to ask myself my intent. Did I want to take advantage of them? Is that what my motivation was? And of course, the answer was always no. Once I realized that guilt that was there, because I'm the kind of person that if you accuse me of something, my initial reaction is I feel guilty, whether I know for absolutely sure I didn't do it. But once I understood that and I felt better and I felt more comfortable, the next question is, well, how do I relay that to the buyer? How do I get them to realize that I am not there to take advantage of them? I have something that sure, I want to sell because I benefit from it, but I want to also sell it because they benefit from it. If it's not a win-win, I'm not really interested in it. So how do I get that across to the buyer? Well, first of all, I give them the buying experience that they would enjoy, that I would enjoy. When I'm looking to buy something, I want information, I want choices, I want a friendly, happy experience. I want the people who are serving me to be friendly. I want them to make me feel like I am actually important. I started realizing that I needed to let the people know that I was there for their benefit. I want to be able to say no easy. That's a big one. If I say no, I don't want them to keep finding different reasons why what I'm saying is not right. I want the ability to change my mind. Buyer's remorse is a big thing, so I usually will not jump into making any kind of purchase. But a lot of times you have to make some kind of promise or something to be able to hold that. You have to let the person who's selling it know that you're interested, or else they'll just sell it to somebody else. So it's really important for me to be able to change my mind once I've thought about it. And also a big one is that I want service. I want service before the sale and I want service after the sale. I don't want to get this thing home or buy something on the internet and find out that it's not what I wanted and it doesn't even work or it's broken or what have you. So I figure out how to do all those things, and I call it being a servant seller. This servant seller is going to drink some more coffee. Why don't you join me? Most of you have been probably drawn to my channel because you are fellow resellers, and a lot of the sales that you make are going to be online. They're going to be with eBay or Amazon or Etsy or what have you. And the internet is a huge and growing place to do sales. With the internet, you don't have to worry so much about the people being worried about having that salesman, that pressure, because they are in control. They can look at things and they can decide to not look at it. They can save it to later and come back and think about it and all those kind of things. And they don't have to say no to somebody. I don't know if you know this or not. People are really wired to not want to say no. It is amazing how hard it is for people to say no to other people. I think that's probably the biggest fear of meeting that used car salesman is that you have to tell them no. On the internet, No is as easy as a click. There's also lots of information. You can get reviews from other people. You can get pictures. But some of the drawbacks, you can't actually hold the product. You can't actually see what it is. How big is it? You look around it, see what it looks like, especially if you're buying something used. Plug it in, see if it does what you want. You buy the stuff and then it comes in. Then if it's not what you want, then you have to go through the big rigmarole of returning it. And that's a big hassle for a lot of people. The fix for that is that there is lots of information online about anything. There's YouTube videos, there's unboxing, there's people doing reviews, lots of user reviews on most of the sites, including Google, where you can get other people's experience, not only with the product, but with the product that this particular person is selling and the salesman. Now, the next thing is probably not an issue if the year that you were born in began with a 2. Because you've grown up with the internet. But us older people who are a little longer in the tooth, we have a problem with the fact that we have absolutely no idea who we're dealing with. Who is that other person on the other end of the line? Again, using online reviews is very important. If you're selling on eBay or Amazon, your feedback is very, very important because people do watch that because they want to know who you are. So I make sure that my feedback is tip top. I go way overboard to make sure that the customer is satisfied. Communication is another big thing to master if you're going to be a servant seller. You don't want to ever be confrontational. You definitely don't want to be confrontational before a sale. You don't want to be confrontational after the sale as well. You want to treat that person like they are the most important person in the world because at that moment, they really are. Now, on the other hand, you also need to know when to let that person go. A wise man told me many, many years ago, there is nothing more expensive than a bad customer. So if somebody's giving you problems and it's not deserving, rather than lashing out at them, just say, hey, I don't think that I'm the right person for you to do business with, and just let it go. There's lots of other people behind them that would be buying. I always try to picture that customer as somebody I care about. Somebody that I really, really want to please, or me. I try to picture if I was on the other side of that and I was saying the same thing that this customer was saying, how would I feel? How would I want to be treated? Right now, I'm going to be treated to some coffee. I'm going to take another sip. So here's some tricks that I have figured out over the years from my own experience and from the experience of others. Number 1 is be friendly. Smile, smile, smile. Don't just smile when you're in front of the person, smile when you're talking to them on the phone, smile when you're composing the message. It really comes across. I don't know why, but it really, really does. It changes your voice, your demeanor. It really, really helps to smile. So just smile. Also get good at training the buyer. Expect that this buyer knows absolutely nothing. You need to be patient with them. You need to educate to them versus dictating to them. Put yourself in their place. Imagine that you don't know what you know. How would you be feeling? Because I don't know about you, but I tend to get really jaded when I get a whole bunch of information and I really know something. I forget that it took me time to actually learn that, and I didn't know anything about it beforehand. So how would you be feeling if you were that person on the other end of this transaction? Count to 10. That's a big one. Before you let loose in a message or a phone call or in person, count to 10. Don't get angry. Don't take it personally. This is business. If this transaction doesn't work out, you're not going to starve. And if you are, then you need to rethink about how you're doing your business. One of the visualizations really, really helps me, especially when it was one-on-one sales, especially if it was a cold call. Before I even get there, I'm picturing the buyer excited about owning and enjoying and using whatever product I'm selling. I picture them actually enjoying it when they get home, being excited about unpacking it, learning how to use it, how it changes their life, how it makes them happy, and being very, very satisfied with it. Also being very, very happy on the back end that they did business with me. They're going to refer other people to me, and they're going to come back and be return customers. It puts me at ease, so it's no big deal when I get there, and I could be friends with them. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, no big deal. And I let them know that right away. This has got to be a win-win situation, or we're just going to have a good cup of coffee and a pleasant conversation. Speaking of coffee, let's take another one. With the choices and control offered to consumers today, there is absolutely no tolerance for being that Hollywood used car salesman. Learn to be a servant seller. Learn to serve the person that you are wanting to buy your product or service. The buyer will be happier, you're going to be happier, and I guarantee you're going to be much more successful in your business. So I know a lot of you have tricks of your own for being servant sellers. You may not have called it that, but if you're really good at what you do, then I guarantee that you understand this concept. So share it with everybody else. Leave it in the comments. Let us know your experience. Let us know some tips. Let's start a conversation. If you're new to this channel, I hope you really enjoyed this video and you check out some of the other ones and see if there's something that you'd enjoy as well. And if you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing and maybe sharing this with somebody else that you might think might enjoy it. Definitely leave a comment. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Try not to beat me up too much. Definitely make sure to hit that ringy-dingy thing so you're notified the next time I make a video. And as always, no matter what tune that life plays you, always find your groove. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.